Wow, 18 months. As a way to put this into perspective for you, I've been on hormones for a year and a half now. It's kind of crazy to think that much time has passed. Some days it feels like I only started just last month. Other days it feels like I started 4 years ago. But I guess that's just the course of time when you get older in general. So, I hope you're comfortable. This is going to be a long one. So I'll start with just a few basics. This month I got a few pleasant surprises, is the best way to say it. When I was at the bank, I was just cashing my check, same as I do about every other 2 weeks. And the main teller stopped and looked at me and said, "Oh, you even put on makeup today." And, I didn't. Just like how I don't put any makeup on when I make these little videos. This is just my face. I will admit it does look better from a certain distance, because when you get too close I have like some red splotches over here and there's these white dots underneath my eyes that from a distance it kind of all welds together, but up close you can see some cracks in the facade. But all the same, that just made my day. I was really happy to hear that. In a similar vein, at work, we go out to lunch at least once a week if we can help it. And lately, one of my coworkers has been holding the door open for me, saying, "Ladies first." I know they're not being sarcastic about it, I can say that much, but every time he does it, I'm just kind of like, you're gonna make me blush. Don't do this to me. This also leads into another talking point I'm starting to notice. When I was younger, I'd watch movies or just kind of see some adult women like go crazy over like newborn puppy. Something like, "Oh, look at the cute little thing, those eyes, oh." That's not an act. That's real. For a while, I always thought it was a nurture thing, but no, it's a nature thing. I've never really felt that way before, but this long on hormones, I guess. Now I'm just getting to the point where I'm just melting at really cute things. And it's just so weird when it happens, because when I do it, I'll just kind of be like, "Oh, look at the cute little thing. What is wrong with me?" That's pretty much how it plays out. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of gender affirming, but on one hand, it's kind of gender affirming, but on the other, I find it kind of distracting. I mean, I can kind of hold it back a little bit, but on the inside, I'm just going. I don't really have much of a segue to this next point. I figure I'll just kind of jump right into it. It seems like lately, towards the end of this month, I can kind of see beauty in men now, if that makes any sense. Like, if I see kind of a good-looking man, I'll kind of be like, he looks pretty handsome. And part of me is a little off-put by this because I just don't really find men attractive. But then again, I guess you can enjoy how something looks, but not want to have sex with it. I don't know, it was just one of those things. I'm like, this is weird. I've never really thought about this kind of stuff before. But I mean, in terms of like a deeper romantic relationship, I'm still hardcore lesbian. I'd rather get to know women on a deeper level. With men, well, I'd rather just go with them to the bar after work or something like that. I just don't really have that need, I guess, to be more personally vested in men than I do. But it was just one of those things. I'm like, men are starting to kind of look nice now, and I'm kind of afraid of that. I'm not going to lie. Once again, no segue for this next one, but I was helping a friend move towards the end of this month. A lot of furniture, a lot of boxes, and all that other stuff you can think of. And this far along on hormones, I was kind of surprised I was as good of a help as I was. I mean, people tell me that estrogen is kind of slowly eating away my muscle mass. Then again, I do try to get a little bit of an exercise regimen, but still, though, I was kind of surprised I was not only to keep up that much strength, but that much endurance. And the only problem is, now I almost have a leg to stand on in this whole immortal transgender people in sports, and that's just not a subject I want to get into. The next thing to mention is a bit odd. So perhaps I mentioned this in my earlier videos, but towards the very beginning of when I was starting to crack the egg, trying to figure out who I was, it got to a point where I would just kind of walk by the women's clothes section at Walmart or just see women walking around, and I'd almost be kind of observing them. Well, maybe observing is a little too dark of a word. I wasn't stalking anybody. I was just kind of like, maybe that's what I'll look like in another 3 years, or, I could probably pull off a dress like that now, or other random things like that. That sort of jealousy is starting to come back a little bit. So Saturday mornings, there's this television program that plays a whole bunch of old cartoons for Saturday morning, kind of reviving the age-long tradition. And it's rather fascinating. I'm just kind of seeing how beautiful the women look in those shows, and I'm just kind of like, will I ever look like that? Will I ever look half as good? But then again, I probably shouldn't be setting that as the standard because, well, let's just say their dimensions are a lot more exaggerated, or some of the other things. But all the same, I figured that'd be an interesting thing for conversation. Now, on to the big one. So my doctor went on maternity leave this month. In her absence, I just wanted to lay the groundwork and see what I needed to do to get prepped for and then eventually have bottom surgery. Since I didn't rate this video 18 plus, I'm going to be kind of vague on the details, but I'm going to just go over everything that I've discovered so far. And, well, either this will help answer any questions you're curious about, or it might help you on your own journey. All the same, I hope this will be an educational experience. I'll start with the basics. What is bottom surgery? This is kind of a euphemism for the idea of converting the male genitalia to the female genitalia. And how that is done? There's a lot of different models you can choose from. That's probably a horrible way to describe it, but I'm trying to make it a little more fun rather than, I don't know, the parent that doesn't want to talk about sex to their kid. It's like, so, this is, the different models you can choose from. So there's some versions where it's really just a surface thing. They remove the male genitalia and just kind of arrange it to look like a female genitalia, but it doesn't really do anything. And then there's the version I want to get, which is pretty similar, but instead of being a surface thing, it goes in. That way it's a little more like the actual thing. Obviously, I'm not going to get periods from this. It's going to be impossible for me to get pregnant. And, well, I'm still got to take estrogen pills as, well, at that point I won't be able to produce either estrogen or testosterone in my body anymore. And then there's a third kind. It's a bit more experimental, and I'm not really sure if they've figured it out yet, but essentially what they can do is make it so you can have both. Personally, I don't see why, as I can't stand the thing, and I just want to be rid of it as soon as I can, but I guess there's some people that only have partial bottom dysphoria? Now, the way I described these three procedures, they go from least to most in terms of insurance cost as well as recovery. Now, that is one aspect if you want it to be a surface, if you want it to go in, or if you want it to be both. I'm sure there's probably other things you can choose from, but these are the ones I know. In order to prep it, though, that is another aspect entirely. The first thing is having to potentially clear the area of all hair. Depending on what procedure you get, you won't have to do this before the operation, and then others, like the one I want to try to get in the future, I do have to clear the area. They tell me that is going to take from 1 to 2 years, which I'm kind of disappointed in, but at the same time, if I can get to it before the age of 30, I'll be happy. Now, how the hair is removed depends on the doctor. So from my general understanding, laser hair removal takes care of dark hair like what I have. If you got like blonde or lighter hair, then you would need electrolysis to be able to remove the hair. But what I find rather weird is that the doctor's office is telling me I will have to have electrolysis, but the electrolysis studio that also does laser hair removal says that it won't work on me. So I'm still kind of bouncing back and forth to figure out which one is correct here, as both are experts in their field. After that, it's a lot of doctor visits, talking with the anesthesiologist, as well as just getting a physical to make sure that, well, you'll actually wake up after they put you under. This is where I come into one of the major hurdles. So with the electrolysis or the laser hair removal, I can get a doctor's note to get at least some of it covered under insurance, which is good because it piles up eventually. I mean, I'm getting laser hair removal on my face, and it's $120 a session with 10 sessions. And after getting an estimate of electrolysis, they told me it was about $200 a session. Of course, electrolysis, after looking it up, is far more painful, which for an area like that should be a lot of fun. But also, the $200 a session just kind of clears everything. More than what's necessary for the surgery, actually. The other big hurdle I have is that the closest doctor that can perform this kind of surgery is an hour away. Now, this might not sound like much, but, well, everything's going up. And an hour away just seems to get a lot further and further as the price of gas just keeps going up and up. Since this doctor's office is an hour away, getting the physical, as well as just other basic consultation needs, I'm going to have to drive out there and then back here. And it's hard to say if I'm going to have to take a whole day off of work for something like that. And then there's the day of the surgery itself. From what I can gather, you're not allowed to eat anything past midnight, which is pretty standard operating procedure for any type of surgery I know of. But the big problem is, it's an hour away, and I'm pretty sure I will not be able to drive myself. I mean, I've got like friends, but there aren't too many of them that can drive, actually. And even within a year or two time, I still don't think my parents are going to be okay with me doing this. So I'd have to drive there, and I'd also have to stay in town there for 2 weeks. Now, when I first heard this, I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll just have to pay the hospital extra. No, you're only in the hospital for like 3 days or so just to kind of check your vitals and everything. And then from there, you'd have to check into a hotel or some other place nearby, and then keep going back and forth to the doctor's office for the next 2 weeks. This is something that's going to get expensive. The doctor is an hour away because he lives in a relatively big city. And big cities have higher income prices, which hotel prices are bound to be just as high. And on top of that, obviously the insurance isn't going to cover the cost of the hotel, food that I will need, electronics I will bring, internet usage. There's just a lot of things that I would have to pay for myself. Sure, it's nice that the surgery itself is covered under insurance. Otherwise, there'd be about $27,000 coming out of my pocket. And then on top of that, because of the particular surgery I want, it's going to be a bloody mess. I'm going to have to carry around a few things that just kind of sop it up. But I guess that's not too far off from how most women experience periods, but I'll only have to deal with that for the first month or so, I wager. And then after that, because my particular surgery will go in, I'll have to make sure that the hole doesn't plug up. That, not only would that defeat the point of the surgery, but I'd have to go in again. I'm not sure if that would be covered under insurance. And also there's just a lot of other health complications there as well. And the biggest thing I got out of the little packet they gave me is that while I'm in the hospital, they'll have to give me this shot 3 times a day just to make sure that a massive blood clot doesn't happen and I get a heart attack or a stroke or something. And just the idea it's said in bold letters, these shots are not negotiable. You have to have them. It's just kind of okay. After getting all these details, as you can tell by the tone of my voice, I'm a little more hesitant to go there. I mean, yes, I understood that the hair removal section was definitely going to be a painful one, but that was something that I accepted. But just all these other expenses and all these other hoops I'd have to go through. Instead of being dead set of getting bottom surgery, now it's more it's something I would love to have, but I just don't really have the money right now. And while I do kind of have a good support network, I'm not really sure if I have anybody that would be willing to drive me out there, stay there for 2 weeks with me perhaps, and then drive me back. And then I'd probably have to take at least a month's sick time off work. And with all this, fear was kind of starting to set in. Maybe I'm just a little paranoid, but I just can't help thinking that now that I'm having second thoughts about this, there's a little trans policeman in my head that's going to come out and says, oh, you're not a real transgender woman. You have to go back to living as a man forever. And all the progress of your hormones are gone because you didn't sign the contract. I know that's not the case, and even I had some doubts before starting hormones, but, well, I guess part of me is just a little nervous. The idea that if this news leaks out, then maybe I'll have to be put on a waiting list, and I won't be able to get the surgery until I'm 35, and it's hard to say if my body would be able to take it at that point. It's a lot to take in. And then one other aspect, in order for you to be able to go under the knife with this surgery, you gotta have, they call them letters of recommendations. You gotta have one from your therapist and another from a registered psychologist. From what I can gather, the purpose of these letters is to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that I am transgender, which I mean, yeah, sometimes I have doubts, but overall my life has gotten so much better since doing this. And the other thing is that I'm of sound mind. That's really the main thing. And that's kind of another expense I have to deal with. I'm able to get the therapist letter all right. While I was still questioning myself, I wanted to make sure I saw a therapist just to kind of straighten out everything, as well as just kind of work through all the emotions that such a revelation can put on you. Since my therapist doesn't take insurance, we both agreed that it would be on an as-needed basis. And in all honesty, my mental health has gotten so much better since I've actually become who I want to be. Since I have repressed this for so long, I'm starting to undo all the other little things that I've been bottling up all my life. And yeah, it's a little painful, but at the same time, I feel like I've genuinely started the healing process. The endocrinologist, their office has just about everything you need. And they also have a psychologist that can also write this letter for me as well. But here's really the major catch. Both of these letters will have to be signed and dated no more than 1 month before I go under the knife. I know why all these hoops are in places, but wow, this is kind of challenging. And I can see why there's a lot of people in the transgender community that get very up in arms if ever you talk badly on trans healthcare or other things like that. I think I'll end this subject, as well as this video, with this. I know for sure this is something I want to do. I'm starting to like how I look. There are times I get out of the shower and I'm like, this is what I've always wanted. How did I ever put up with this for so many years? And then I see my male genitalia and I'm just like, right. I've never been a big fan of it. I never understood why people loved it so much. And I almost find it kind of funny that whenever I talk about this surgery to some of the cis males I have, they're like utterly disturbed. Because for them, taking away that aspect of them would be like if you took away my chest or something like that. It's something that's a big part of them, something they almost strived hard to get. I found this a very weird thing, but I guess that's really about it. If you're cis, you love what you have. If you're trans, you want an upgrade. You don't like what you got and you want to change it up. And obviously a little disclaimer, because I got in a lot of trouble for saying this statement before, is that's not everybody's experience, obviously. Everybody experiences this in a very different way. But yes, that's all I've got for this little summary video, except for this blouse I got. I'm going to be wearing more blouses because I love how this looks and feels on me. And once summer rolls around, this shirt is going to feel fantastic. Well, until next time, be yourself, no matter who that is.